Hello, and if you are joining us for the first time, welcome to the Canting Club. This week we have a Portuguese white. I first discovered how great these could be about 15 years ago, sat on the sunny terrace of a bar in Lisbon overlooking the harbour, eating olives and almonds with my wife-to-be. We ordered a bottle of Alvarinho because I'd heard it was the best white grape, and when it came it was an absolute revelation. We abandoned all thoughts of further sightseeing and sat out there all afternoon drinking 2 bottles. That Alvarinho came from the far north of Portugal in the Minho region, close to the border with Spain. Just across that border in Galicia, they grow a lot of Albarinho, which is the same grape. And about 5 years before I was sat in Lisbon, Marcial Dourado, a Galician winemaker, was searching for an old vine Albarinho vineyard to make wine from. He couldn't find one in Spain, but eventually bought a 70-year-old vineyard just across the border in Portugal and founded the Quinta do Feital to make the wine from it. This is not actually that wine. This one is produced from Marcial's second vineyard, bought a few years later. It's further downstream, closer to the Atlantic, at Seixas, and a lovely natural amphitheatre of terraced vines. At the time it was planted entirely with the Trajadura grape. But since then, Marcial has replanted the higher terraces with Alvarinho and now makes this wine, Auratus, from a 50-50 blend of the 2 grapes. It's picked entirely by hand and undergoes a long, cool fermentation to preserve the aromatics, using only the natural wild yeast from the grape skins, and that adds complexity into the wine. It's then aged for 6 months on its own lees, with the lees being stirred every week. And this adds body and texture into the wine and depth to the nose. A couple of the tanks for this have gone through the malolactic fermentation, which converts the sharp malic acid into the creamier lactic acid. Auratus means golden in Portuguese, which refers to the colour of the grape skins when they're fully ripe. And you also get that colour, it's a lovely deep golden yellow, in the wine, which has had quite a long time in contact with those skins in order to get the wild yeasts off them. That's a lovely, lovely nose, and it's quite intense. It jumps up out of the glass at you with floral impressions of honeysuckle and a citric hint of orange peel. And there's also some apricot in there, but it's quite stony, more like apricot kernels than fruit. I love the balance of floral, citric and stony elements on this nose. It's dry and crisp and initially seems quite light-bodied, but then it fills out in the mouth with that creamy texture and richness from the lees stirring and the malolactic fermentation. The fruit flavours are quite rich of pear and melon and white peach, and there's an intriguing hint of bitter almonds, which gets a bit stronger on the finish. And on the finish there's a sort of salty tang, perhaps from the Atlantic sea breezes. The acidity comes through too, so it finishes quite crisp. This is very Portuguese, though I'm hard-pressed to say exactly why. I think there's a sort of bruised petal quality to the floral sense, and that hint of bitterness on the finish that's characteristic of the country. I love the balance on this and the way it starts and finishes like a light aromatic wine, like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Riesling. But in the middle, you get the weight of fruit and creamy mouth-filling texture that you might get from, say, an unoaked Chardonnay. A lovely wine, and I hope you like it too. Cheers.